There's a moment every grower eventually hits, no matter how much land they have or, well, don't have. It's the realization that the biggest harvests don't come from having endless acres, but from knowing how to make every inch count. Throughout history, some of the most impressive agricultural feats came from the tightest constraints. Ancient terrace farming carved into mountainsides, wartime victory gardens squeezed between city walls, monastic gardens tucked behind stone cloisters. These growers didn't rely on vast fields, they relied on strategy. And today's small-space farmer is walking in the exact same footsteps. Whether someone has a balcony, a courtyard, a 5-metre stretch behind the house, or a patch of ground between buildings, the principles behind high-yield growing stay the same. Once you understand how to layer space, manage roots, and work vertically, small spaces become shockingly productive. Small spaces really thrive when you treat them as three-dimensional growing systems rather than just flat ground. Honestly, the biggest shift a small space grower can make is moving away from thinking horizontally. A flat garden, well, it forces you to fight against limitations. But a three-dimensional garden, on the other hand, turns those limitations into an advantage. For centuries, farmers in Asia have used vertical trellises, woven bamboo towers, and layered growing beds to multiply their yields without ever needing to expand outward. The same idea works perfectly today, whether you're using a simple trellis made from sticks or a more robust frame built from metal or wood. Crops like cucumbers, beans, peas, melons, and even some squash varieties, they immediately free up ground space by climbing. When someone commits to vertical growing, it really reshapes the entire space. Suddenly, leafy greens can thrive at the base of climbing crops, using the cool, shaded microclimate created beneath the trellis. This isn't just theoretical. Actually, it's a method used in traditional companion gardens all around the world. By pairing heat-loving vine crops with shade-tolerant leafy crops, you turn one patch into, well, two distinct productive zones. It's the same principle medieval gardeners used when they trained grapes and beans along walls, making use of the cool soil below for lettuce and medicinal herbs. Yield increases dramatically when you select crops that naturally give more food for less space. Small space growing benefits enormously from choosing plants that, honestly, don't waste room. High-yield, compact varieties have actually been part of farming long before modern seed catalogues ever existed. Peas, radishes, carrots, chard, kale, lettuce, bush beans, and peppers all produce heavily without sprawling, you know. Even root vegetables, if spaced properly, can give surprisingly large harvests in tight beds. Medieval kitchen gardens relied heavily on compact crops because, well, walls, monasteries and fortresses often limited the ground area available. Those growers learned early on that quick crops meant constant rotation, and constant rotation meant consistent food. A modern small gardener can use that same strategy by growing fast-maturing vegetables in succession. A bed that holds radishes for 25 days can hold lettuce for the next 40, and then carrots for the next 70. This rolling schedule means you're essentially farming time as well as space. It also keeps soil covered and biologically active, something ancient growers understood instinctively even without modern soil science. If the growing area is tight, the soil has to work harder. That's why traditional small gardens, everything from Roman courtyard beds to Japanese home plots, used incredibly rich, well-structured soil. Without deep, fertile soil, no amount of clever spacing can compensate. Today's home grower can replicate this by building up organic matter using compost, leaf mould, aged manure, or even high-quality kitchen scrap compost. Small space gardening really thrives in raised beds and containers because, well, you can control the soil easily and prevent compaction. One of the most effective techniques is mixing fine compost with coarse organic material like shredded bark or straw, so roots can penetrate deeply. Even a container, can produce large yields when the soil is loose and alive. For example, tomatoes grown in a deep container with rich soil and steady feeding routinely rival in-ground tomatoes. Carrots grown in tall containers with airy soil form straighter, longer roots than those planted in hard ground. Soil quality, more than anything, sets the ceiling for how much food a small space can generate. In small gardens, sunlight becomes a resource that must be distributed carefully. South-facing areas receive the strongest sun, making them perfect for fruiting crops like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. Shadier spots, tucked behind walls or under trellises, suit leafy greens. By placing crops based on their light needs, small growers stop wasting sunlight and stop stressing shade-tolerant vegetables. This is exactly how historical courtyard gardens were arranged. Builders knew which corners stayed cool and which walls reflected heat, and they planted accordingly. Modern growers can, observe their space through a single day and map where sunlight falls. After identifying the hottest, brightest areas, they can reserve those spaces for the crops that need energy the most. This intentional placement increases yield because every plant gets the right conditions rather than a compromised environment. Water management becomes the backbone of small space success, especially in containers and raised beds. Smaller areas dry out faster, but they also allow more precise irrigation. Ancient urban growers often used clay pot irrigation, where water seeped slowly into the soil over time. That same method works today with olla pots, buried between plants. A modern alternative is drip irrigation, or, even a simple bottle with holes inverted into the soil for steady moisture. Consistent moisture prevents stress, boosts yield, and, it keeps vegetables from turning bitter or cracking. In small beds, deep watering once or twice a week encourages roots to reach downward rather than staying shallow. This is essential for crops like tomatoes, peppers, and leafy greens. Consistency, honestly, solves most small garden issues before they appear. Even limited areas can produce astonishing harvests when plants are shaped and guided. Training tomatoes upward, pruning side shoots on vine crops, thinning overcrowded greens, and gently weaving beans up a pole all create order in a tight environment. Historical growers used these techniques constantly because they understood that a plant's shape determines its output. A pruned plant isn't restricted. It's empowered to focus on fruit and healthy growth. Growing high-yield vegetables in small spaces isn't a compromise. It's the revival of an ancient style of farming built on precision, creativity, and respect for the land. Here on Husbandry, we bring that history back to life so modern growers can thrive no matter their constraints. If this guide inspired you or offered new ideas, make sure to subscribe and share the video so more people can turn small spaces into powerful food-producing systems.